The new year has brought with it a fresh bout of market volatility, with the sell-off from last week in equities and currencies appearing to gather pace. Joining me now is Mitul Kotecha, FX strategist at Crédit Agricole CIB. Mitul, thanks for joining us. It seems like this started with a decision in Argentina to let its currency fall 15% in a single day. Is this now spreading? Are there other factors in play here?
Yeah, I would argue as well. It didn't just start with Argentina. It may have been a bit of a catalyst, but there are a number of things taking place and events and issues across a lot of emerging markets that have actually contributed to the malaise now that we're seeing across, as I said, the emerging market assets. So we've had Argentina with effectively letting their currency drop very sharply. There's obviously political unrest in Thailand and worries there. Of course, Ukraine, the tensions that are taking place in Ukraine as well, and that's adding to the tensions across the emerging markets. But this is all coming against a backdrop of tapering, and I think this in a normal circumstance may not have contributed to a big sell-off in emerging markets, but investors were already very, very nervous. And then you add all of these events, and I didn't mention Turkey, and I haven't mentioned upcoming elections in India and Indonesia and elsewhere, and you can see there's a lot of attention on emerging market issues at the moment.
I mean, those are all very specific, country-specific problems. It feels like now everyone's getting involved. It's spreading to developed markets. We've seen a big drop-off in the Nikkei today. Why is it spreading to developed markets as well?
Well, I think it's the usual contagion. It's the financial channels. In the past, we've seen this significantly take place from, we've had crises, if we go back to '97, beginning in Thailand and going around the world. We had the subprime crisis in the US, turning into a global financial crisis. So markets are nervous. All the financial channels globally mean that you can't have an isolated crisis nowadays. Something happens in one country, automatically finds its way across the world. And I think that's exactly what's taking place now. I'm not saying we're going to get into a crisis situation globally, but certainly tensions do seem to be on a deteriorating path.
Do you think that we're about to see another rerun of what we had, well, in May and June last year?
I don't think we're going to see it in such a short space of time as we saw in May and June, but I think over a period of time we will see the same impact. That is that we will see pressure on Asian currencies, on Asian asset markets in general, and we're going to see capital leaving several of the economies and countries in the region. But we have to bear in mind as well, I think there's a countering impact here. US yields have dropped quite sharply, and that's giving a little bit of relief actually to Asia. At the same time as well, a lot of countries in the region have got fairly sound fundamentals. So we're not, again, talking about crisis proportions, but I do think we're going to see more pressure.
The yen seems to be reacting in a sort of old, traditional way of a haven currency, but other places which have traditionally been a bit more secure, like the Philippines or Korea, they're reacting differently. What's behind the divergence here?
Well, again, taking a look at the flows, what we have seen through January actually is capital or equity flows in particular leaving South Korea, leaving the Philippines, and that's contributed to some of the weakness in these currencies. At the same time, there was always a concern in Korea about the fact that the yen was weakening and you had a relatively strong Korean won. So maybe this is a bit welcome as long as it doesn't get out of control. And similarly with the Philippines, we have had comments from the central bank talking about being more comfortable at slightly weaker levels of the currency. So again, partly this is a generalized bout of risk aversion, but at the same time there are a lot of idiosyncratic factors for various countries in the region.
It's just funny that we've had an extremely busy start to the year in the primary markets. We've had record January in debt and for IPOs. Could that now come under pressure, do you think, or at risk if this continues?
I think there will be some risk, certainly. What we have seen is a lot of issuance ahead of the tapering taking place, and I think a lot of companies are trying to get to the market very quickly. I don't think that sort of pace of issuance is going to continue, especially in a more nervous environment for markets. That being said, there's still a lot of planned issuance out there in the next few months, so we probably will still see a lot come to fruition, but not as aggressively as we've seen in the first few weeks of the year.
Mitul, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And you can read plenty more on this at ft.com.